Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is third video on Jackson cross-lender, and in this video we will discuss the procedure of Jackson cross-lender reflection. So the first step of performing JCC is that you have to find best vision sphere. You will do a BBS reflection to find out the best vision for the patient, and we know that this best vision sphere puts the circle of least confusion on the retina and create a condition of mixed astigmatism. The next step is that you will check whether any astigmatism is present or not. To check presence of astigmatism. And to do this, you have to adjust JCC in such a way that you give the patient two options. In number one option, the minus cylinder is at 90 degree, and in the other option minus cylinder is at 180 degree. Okay, the procedure a lot depends upon the type of cylinder the examiner wants to give. Minus cylinder at 90 also means that at the same time the plus cell is at 180. Similarly, minus cell at 180 will means that plus cylinder at 90. So it is the choice of examiner doing JCC whether he wants cylinder in minus or plus. So you will give two choices to the patient. In choice number 1, the minus cylinder will be at 90, and in choice number 2, minus cylinder will be at 180. And you will ask for the preference of the patient, whether he likes view number 1 or view number 2 or view number 3 where there is no JCC. If the patient prefers view number 1, it means that he needs minus cylinder at 90, and if you are doing refraction in plus cylinder, then it will mean that he will need plus cylinder at 180. If he prefers view number 2, then it means that patient need minus cylinder at 180, and if we are talking about in plus form, then it will mean that he will need plus cylinder at 90. While doing this step to check the presence of astigmatism, it is important that the target should be one or two lines above the best corrected line of the patient. For example, if with best vision sphere his vision is 6 by 12, then when showing him Jackson cross center at various orientations, the target should be 6 by 18 or 6 by 24 line letter size, and the target should be in circular form. Why we are saying that you should show a line of 618 or 624? Because introduction of JCC blurs the vision. And if the patient does not prefer any of these options, then we should try JCC at an angle of 45 and 135. So the third option will become minus cell at 45, which will also mean that plus cell at 135, and fourth is minus cell at 135 or plus cell at 45. If the patient prefers this view, it means that minus cylinder at 45 or plus cylinder at 135. If he prefers this view, it will mean minus cylinder at 135 or plus cylinder at 45. If he doesn't prefers any of these views, including 1, 2, 3, 4, it means that patient does not need any astigmatic correction. So let's see this with the help of diagram so that we can understand this better. We were talking about how to check presence of astigmatism in the patient. As discussed previously, let's suppose the BVS is -1. This was our BVS. So now I want to check the presence of astigmatism, and the visual acuity with this was 6/12. So with -1 in the trial frame, I will ask the patient to focus on a letter of 6/18 or 6/24, and then uh, this target will be rounder in circular form. Then with -1 in the trial frame, I will held cross cylinder in this position. Here, red lines indicate the axis of minus cylinder and black lines indicate the axis of plus cylinder. Similarly, here red minus and black plus. So in view number 1 that I will give to the patient, the minus cylinder is at 90 degree or plus cylinder at 180. Then I will flip the cross cylinder and I will give this view to the patient. Here minus cylinder is at 180 and plus cylinder is at 90. I will flip cross cylinder to this position and then I will remove the cross cylinder, which will be the view number 3 with no JCC. So I will ask the patient which one is clear, number 1, number 2 or number 3. If he says view number 1 is clear, it will means that he needs minus cylinder at 90 or plus cylinder at 180. If view number 2 is clear, it means that he needs minus cylinder at 180 or plus cylinder at 90. And if he says that view number 3 is clear, it means that he does not need cylinder at 90 or 180. And when showing the target, I will ask in which view letters are darker, sharper, and rounder. These 3 questions I will ask to the patient. So if he does not prefer 1 or 2, he says third one is clear, then I will change my orientation of cylinder and I will show him at 45 and 135. Then I will show the patient cross cylinder in this orientation. Here you can see that minus cylinder is at 45 or plus cylinder at 135. Then I will flip it to the position number 2, at which you can see that minus cylinder is at 135 and plus cylinder at 45. And this will be the view number 3 where there will be no cross cylinder. So I will ask again the patient which option is clear, 1, 2 or 3. If he says that 1 is clear, it means that he needs minus cylinder at 45 or plus cylinder at 135. If he says that option 2 is clear, it means that he needs minus cylinder at 135 or plus cylinder at 45. And if he says that no, both are not clear, option 3 is clear, it means that he does not need any stigmatic correction. And if he prefers this, then the role of cross cylinder is our. And if he prefers 1 or 2, then we will add cylindrical lenses. So in the first portion of cross cylinder, to check the presence or absence of astigmatism, we can summarize it as first give BVS, then show cross cylinder with the orientation of cylinders at 90 and 180 meridian and ask the patient for any preference. If he prefers, that's good, add that cylinder. If he does not prefer these positions, then show him cylinders at 45 and 135. These 4 are our principal meridians, 90, 180, 45, 135. If patient does not prefer any of these orientations, it will mean that he does not need cylindrical correction. So this was the first part of the Jackson cross cylinder reflection where we want to check the presence of astigmatism. Now we will move to the second part, which is actually the continuation of this part. We will refine the axis of cylinder. Here we will have some prescription of the patient is using spherical and cylindrical lenses, and we want to check whether the axis of cylinder in the prescription are correct or not, and then we will follow on to see whether the power of cylinder is correct or not. You must be thinking that why we are refining axis before refining the power. I will explain it here. In cylindrical lens, we have two things: axis and power. You must remember that the power of cylinder required by the patient cannot be measured accurately if cylinder is not at its proper axis. So, to measure power of the cylindrical correction required, it is important that we must know the correct orientation of cylindrical lens. And when you talk about the axis of cylinder, we can find the axis of cylinder in the presence of incorrect power. If the power is incorrect, we can still find the axis of cylinder. What does this mean that power is incorrect? It means that if patient requires -2 cylinder and you have -1 cylinder in the trial frame, still you can find the correct axis. But if axes are not correct, let's suppose -2 is required at 180 and I'm putting -1 cylinder, -2 cylinder at 90. I cannot find the correct power of the cylinder because orientation is wrong. So therefore it is necessary to refine or find the axis of cylinder first, and then you should move towards the refining power of cylindrical correction. Okay, next thing is refining the axis of cylinder. Since we are refining cylinder, it means that there must be some amount of cylinder already the patient is using. Let's suppose the patient has a prescription of -2 with -1 cylinder at 180. To refine the axis of cylinder from JCC, you must remember that you have to align the handle of Jackson cross cylinder with the axis the patient is using, okay, which in this case will be 180. Let me show this with diagram. Here is the diagram, and we know that the prescription of patient was -2 with -1 cylinder at 180. So I have aligned the handle of the cross cylinder at 180 degree, and I've shown the target to the patient on vision chart. And in first view, I held cross cylinder in this orientation, and then I have flipped the cross cylinder into this orientation, and then in the third view there is no JCC. So I have asked patient which view is clear, 1, 2 or 3. And you must remember, when I am showing him Jackson cross cylinder in these orientations, this prescription is also present in the trial frame. I am showing Jackson cross cylinder over this prescription. So now discuss different scenarios which can happen here. If let's start with easy one. If he says that view number 3 is clear, it means that these axes are correct. Okay, you don't need to do anything further. Let's assume that this is the trial frame prescription and the cylinder present in the prescription is shown here, -1 cylinder at 180 degree. Okay, and I have shown the 3 views to the patient. We have discussed what happens in the third view. You don't need to do anything. Now discuss option number 1. If he says that this view is clear, so what you will do, you will move the axis of cylinder in the prescription in this direction towards this red line. Okay, now you must be thinking why we are rotating it towards the red line, because the cylinder used in the prescription was minus, and minus is cylinder is represented by red line, so I am moving towards the red line. If here the cylinder was plus, then I would have moved the axis of this trial frame in this direction towards this black line. So in which direction you will move, either red or black, that depends upon slender present in the prescription. If minus cell is present, then you have to follow red line, and if plus slender is present, then you have to follow black line. And if patient says that this view number 2 is clear, then again I'm drawing here the slender present in the trial frame, minus 1 at 180. If he says that view number 2 is clear, then I will move the axis of cylinder in the prescription in this direction. Now red line is on upward direction, here it was downward. And if again the cylinder was in plus, then I would have moved it in this direction. But since it is in minus, I will move the axis of this cylinder in upward direction. So this is what you will do in option number 1 and option number 2. Then how much you have to rotate the axis of this cross cylinder, that depends upon the power of JCC you are using. If you are using the higher power of JCC, let's suppose plus minus 1, then you have to rotate to a lesser extent, 5 degree almost. And if you are using cylinder of lower power, let's say plus minus 0.25, then you have to rotate up to 15 degree. Okay. So in view number 1, when we rotate it 5 degree, we will get axis at 175. So this prescription will become minus 2 with minus 1 at 175. I will not stop here. I will again further refine the axis with this orientation, which was on 180 because the original axis was 180. The handle of the cross cylinder will be at 175. And then again, showing one view, then I will rotate, flip to option number 2 and then option number 3. And I will continue doing this process until the patient says that option number 3 is clear, which means that axes are now refined. And in this case, if he says that option number 2 is clear, the prescription would have become minus 2 with minus 1 at 5 degree. So this is how you are changing the axis of cylinder present in the prescription using JCC. I hope that the procedure of refining the axis of cylinder is now clear. When we have refined the axis, let's suppose patient preferred this choice, and when I've shown him again cross cylinder at with its handle at 175, option 1, 2 and 3, he prefers third position. So this is the prescription with the correct axis. Now I will refine the power of cylinder. So let's discuss how to refine power of this cylinder, whether this minus 1 is correct or patient need more cylinder or less cylinder. So the next step is refining the power of cylinder. You have refined the axis, 5 degree change was observed, and the prescription is minus 2 with minus 1 cylinder at 175. These 9 let's suppose shows 175 axis. Now we want to refine this power, either minus 1 is correct or not. To refine the power, the axis of individual cylinders of the cross cylinder must be aligned with the axis of cylinder present in the prescription. Previously, in refining the axis of cylinder, we have aligned handle of cross cylinder with the axis of cylinder present in the trial frame. Here, refining the power, we will align the axis of individual cylinders of cross cylinder with the axis of cylinder present in the trial frame. Let's show this with a diagram. This green is a cross cylinder, and here is the red lines, and here are the black lines. And here is the handle of cross cylinder. This is view number 1. In view number 1, I have aligned the axis of minus cylinder of the cross cylinder in red line with the axis of cylinder already present in the prescription 175 represented by blue lines. This is position number 1, and in position 2 I will flip the cross cylinder so that black lines, the lines of plus cylinder axis, are aligned with this blue line. I will get something like this. This is the 12 frame cylinder again on 175 axis, cross cylinder here, and here black lines aligned with the axis of cylinder in the prescription, and red lines are here. This is view number 1, this is 2, this is 3, no JCC. Again I will show the patient 3 views, view number 1, 2 and 3, and I will ask the patient which view is clear, 1, 2 or 3. Again, let's see what happens in each of these 3 situations. We start with an easy one, the third one, in which he says that without GCC it's better. It will indicate that this power of the prescription is correct. The patient's required cylinder need is -1 at 175. If he says no, view number 1 is clear, then here the axis of cylinder is aligned with the axis of minus cylinder, red lines. Here cylinder was also minus, so it means that he is preferring minus cylinder. That will indicate you that you need to increase the power of this minus cylinder. Okay, how much you will increase will depend upon the power of JCC. Let's suppose the JCC I have is plus minus 0.25 crossed cylinder. It will mean that it has a power of cylinder 0.50. Okay, so I will increase this cylindrical prescription by 0.50. It will become -2 with -1.50 at 175. And when you have increased the cylinder, as discussed in previous video on the principle of JCC, the circle of least confusion has moved away from the retina. So to bring it back on the retina, I need to change my spherical correction. And I will do it as half of this cell, which will be 0.25, and it must be of opposite sign. Cylinder was minus, so it will be plus. So adding plus 0.25 in -2, I will get -1.75 with -1.50 cylinder at 175. The procedure of refining power of cylinder is not over here. Again, I will give the patient 3 choices, 1, 2 and 3. If again he prefers option number 1, it means that he is preferring more cylindrical power. So I will increase this power. I will make it -2. And similarly, I will change this spherical correction so that the circle of least confusion remains on the retina. And I will continue to do that procedure 1, 2 or 3 until the patient prefers the third position. That will indicate that now the power is refined. So this happens in case number 1. Now coming to option number 2, if the patient prefers view number 2, here plus cylinder lines are aligned with the axis of cylinder in the 12 frame. So patient is appreciating the plus cylinder. So in this case we will decrease the cylindrical power. Again assuming this cross cylinder 0.25 power individual cylinders. So we will decrease it by 0.5. The prescription will become -2 with -0.50 cylinder at 175. Again changing cylinder moves the circle of least confusion away from retina. So we will change this spherical correction in similar fashion that we changed here. Here it was decreasing, here it will increase because we have decreased the cylinder. It will become -2.25 with -0.50 cylinder at 175. So I will modify this description with this, and then again repeat this procedure again 1, 2, and 3. And I will continue to do so until the patient prefers option number 3, which will indicate that the power is now refined properly. So this is the procedure of refining the power of cylinder. And here the procedure of performing Jackson cross cylinder refraction ends. I have made 3 videos on this topic, and I have tried to cover each perspective of JCC in these videos. I hope if you find it useful. Thank you.